been a goal. So that's why I joined the course. Hopefully, I'm graduating soon. So yeah.
Excellent. Good answer. Cybersecurity is a growth industry. There's a lot of malicious actors out there, unfortunately, in the cyber world, and we all need to stay secure online. I'm now going to go to Eli Partridge. I hope I said that right. Same thing. Could you take a second and just introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name's Eli. I'm a junior at ASU studying entrepreneurship. My main area of focus, or what's it called, interest of domain is jewelry. And I'm currently trying to find a solution for people that have their wedding rings and their fingers swell, so they either pay for professional sizing or they just keep it in their drawer and never wear it again. So that happened to my mom. So that's where I got that problem from, and currently trying to find a solution that's not already there and see if that can help make a difference in that problem.
Eli, thank you for the introduction. That is a super interesting problem statement. For those of us that are lucky enough to be married, we all know that the ring is, not just a symbolic statement to everyone in the universe about your commitment, but a hugely powerful statement, a reminder to yourself of just like that incredible day of your life that you were, wed to this person and the commitment you made to them. So there's like so many layers of meaning in that piece of jewelry. It's such an interesting problem statement. Thank you for sharing that. That's super, super interesting. Okay, one more while we wait for anyone else to join. Mohammed Mateen Asefi. Please come off mute and tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Mohammed Mateen Asafi, and I'm a senior CS student specializing in cybersecurity. And I'm honored to be in this meeting with you, learning this stuff from you. And as Khaled said, I like his idea about having a firm about cybersecurity, since, as you said, that there are lots of malicious people around the globe trying to do some bad stuff, and here we are trying to stop them, at least in the future. And that's my intention too. I'm really focused on the data privacy and how to find a solution to stop big companies from selling individuals' data to provide them more privacy. So that's why I'm here, and I'm really enthusiastic about entrepreneurship. So who knows? Maybe one day I have my startup and my company.
Excellent, Mohammed. Terrific introduction. Super cool that we've got people solving such pressing problems, both on the individual level with the wedding ring and on the societal level with cybersecurity. Okay, with that, I'm gonna. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so before I introduce Cookie, I am going to just, of course, now someone wants to join. I tried to give them time. We try to be patient around here, but we'll let Mary in, make sure she gets her credit. Okay, so the thing we want to talk about today is curiosity. And who are we going to help? So Cookie is a very good friend of mine that I worked with at a great world-class company called Carrier, Willis Carrier, in the city of New York, more than 100 years ago, invented air conditioning to solve a pressing problem of that time, which was too much humidity in a room. And the humidity made paper in a paper press environment stick together. And when they went to dehumidify the room, they found out they accidentally made it cooler. They were actually trying to make a dehumidifier when they invented air conditioning. Just shows the way the world works. And because of Willis Carrier and his brilliance and the company he built, the company employs tens of thousands of people today. And between 2014 and 18, I was very blessed to work there. And I got to meet Cookie, who still works on the commercial side of that business. She is one of the most capable, skilled, thoughtful, creative, and just hardworking marketers that I've had the great pleasure to work with. And I asked her to come and tell a story where they applied curiosity to solve a business problem that I thought would be useful for all of you. So for all of you to learn from, to listen to, so on and so forth. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen. These are her slides. We had some issues with her deck, so we're just pulling it up here real simply in an email format as an attachment, but it's going to give her the opportunity to apply some visuals to this. And with that, I'm going to introduce Cookie, and please share your story.
Thank you, Brian. And that was a very generous introduction. I very much enjoyed working with you and have the same level of respect for your skill and ability. So at any rate, so I am Cookie Caloia, and I'm going to share with you a story about how we were able to increase our business, a previous business that I worked for. We were able to increase retail sales by $40 million in 1 year with this idea that I'm going to share with you. The name of the company at the time was Pass and Seymour Legrand. Pass and Seymour was a great American brand. It got purchased by Legrand, which is a global electrical wiring device manufacturer brand. And they were looking for a foray into the American market. They came and bought Pass and Seymour. I worked for them when it was called Pass and Seymour Legrand. If you were to look it up now, they simply go by Legrand, and that had always been their plan, was to just become Legrand over time. And so they have. But at any rate, let's go on. At the time that I worked on this project, I was actually the North America Marcom, actually the retail Marcom director. I'd since been promoted, and we'll share with that quickly. So at any rate, let's go on to the electrical 101. So I don't know whether or not anybody's ever tried to change out an electrical wiring device, a switch or an outlet in your home or apartment, for instance. There are a lot of reasons why people don't like to do electrical work on their own. One might be that if you could get shocked, right? If you don't do it properly, if you didn't turn off the power at the breaker first, you could get shocked. If you wire incorrectly, you could start a fire, burn your house down. So there's a lot of good reasons why people don't like to do electrical on their own. Now, since then, this was back in the early 2000s. Since then, there's YouTube, lots of tutorials, and the climate's changed a bit. But at any rate, I'm giving you kind of the framing for when this project happened. The other thing you'll notice as you look at those switches, there's 3 different switches on this slide. There's a residential switch. It's the lightest, if you will, the least amount of material, the thinnest of the metal straps, for instance. And then there's and that would sell for around 80 cents. The commercial product that you see in the middle is a bit heftier, right? It's thicker, it's got heavier plastics, more durable actual switch, a toggle, so that it won't break. And it stands a lot of use. Like you could repeat the on-off mechanism, how many thousands of times, tens of thousands of times more than you could with a residential device. And for that, you'd pay an extra maybe 60 cents. And then there was the industrial grade of product, and that's even heftier, has more durable, stronger materials, thicker metals, thicker plastics, thicker toggle, can withstand more, even more repetitions of on-off. And you could whack it with a shovel handle and it's not going to break. It's as durable as they come. When you switch that on and off, you hear it. You can hear it across the house. And that would be about $5. And so back in the late 1990s, the home centers were starting to build like crazy, and they were coming after manufacturers for all things in the mechanical space of a home, whether it was plumbing, electrical, carpentry, whatever. And so they came to our company like they had to our competitors and said, give us a price for bringing your product into our electrical aisle. And at the time, most people did not do electrical on their own. They didn't even know where to buy electrical supplies. Electrical supplies were sold at electrical distributors. Those buildings don't look at all like a store, and they are usually on like industrial sections of towns, and they are frequented by electrical contractors, right? People of the trade, and they would have an account. They would go every morning and get a box full of product for the projects they were working on that day. They would get billed once a month. And they were the ones that bought the product. They marked it up when they sold you a project for your home. So that's a level set of what the market was doing at that time. Next, we'll talk about the point of departure. So you remember that the language was residential, commercial, and industrial, and the stores had decided, for whatever reason, that this gray plastic card would become kind of the industry standard. And all of the stores that were moving into the electrical were using the existing terminology, this very industrial looking, electrical sounding information. They talked about volts and amps and poles and ways, and even more reasons why do-it-yourselfers shied away from electrical. They just didn't understand, do I need a single pole or a three-way or a 120 volt or a two, nobody knew. So that's what we had. We said, okay, we can make these cards also, because the manufacturer had to supply the merchandising for their product when they got an account. So next. So we were thinking, gosh, how can we make even more money by selling these 79-cent switches? It's crazy, right? There's not a lot of room there. And then we thought, wait a minute, that's the thinnest, cheapest, least durable of all of the switches. How can we get people to buy the next grade up, the more durable one? And in all truth, the reality is, in your home, you switch on your bathroom. Think about how many times you switch on your bathroom lights, your kitchen lights, on and off, on and off, on and off. When you go to work, if you're working in an office, you turn your light on when you go in. You turn it off at the end of the day. Like, it goes on and off twice a day. But at home, that kitchen switch or that bathroom switch might go on and off 30 times a day. How many people in your family, right? So the reality was that we needed to help the shopper buy the better grade product, because it was actually a more appropriate product for their need in their home. And likewise, if you were working in your garage and you had somebody had put in a switch that was not industrial grade, maybe it had a broken toggle, and that's actually dangerous, right? So we wanted to sell them that industrial grade, but nobody would buy an industrial grade if you're buying it for your house. So we knew we had the problem to solve, was changing the vernacular, the look, the feel, not just of the merchandising, the product, packaging, and the support merchandising, the posters. Everything needed to change. We needed to educate even the people that worked in the aisle. They needed to understand why the vernacular changed and what we were changing it to. We spent a lot of time in the electrical aisles watching people shop and watching store employees interact with them. Homeowners tended to come in. They would have their non-functioning item with them because they didn't know how to talk about it or describe it. So they'd come into the aisle with their old device that didn't work. They would instantly buy residential because it was for their house. They didn't think they had a choice. Nothing else made sense. It's for my house. I have to buy the residential. And they didn't understand electrical terminology. In fact, that fed their fear. So next. So what we did was we came up with what we call SmartStep. We changed the word residential to standard. We changed the word commercial to premium, and we changed the word industrial to heavy duty. And this wasn't just about upsell, it was about right sell. We want to sell you the device that you need for where you're going to use it, where you need it. And we also didn't really want to sell a lot of standard products, and most people don't think that they are standard. So, and the price difference was negligible, 60 cents more for a premium. Who's not premium? Who wouldn't spend 60 cents more to keep their house from burning down, right? And by the way, these are the same people that are buying a Mountain Dew at the cash register for $3. So, you know, your electrical wiring device is going to last 20, 30 years in your house. It's worth the extra 60 cents. And we knew that. So what we did was we used this warm color palette with yellow base. We used very friendly, round typeface. We renamed those categories. We suggested applications. And so, for instance, on that premium card, it would say like more durable for high use areas like kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, ... So we were actually telling them what you need this for. And the heavy duty was built tough for garages, basements, shops, ... Now you get a sense of why you need this device. So the other thing that we did was in the bottom left corner, we kept the amps and poles and volts and ways because we needed to. It was, like a requirement, but we made it really small. So it's still there, but it's small. And then the color coding for residential, premium, and heavy duty, we really did not want to sell a lot of standard. And we literally made it this kind of soft, light blue to dissuade people from shopping there. And when we planogrammed or mapped out where the products would go in a set, we always put the lower priced items, those standard, along the bottom. So they were less reachable and the eyes would come in on the premium section. Next. So amongst other activities to support this shift, we had to repackage the product. The product traditionally came in just a chipboard box with no window and no real verbiage other than there was an industry standard sticker that would go on the box. And that would just talk about amps, poles, ways, part number, maybe a diagram of a sketch of the product. And inside would be a wiring diagram that was very electric, as you might imagine, all electrically oriented. And customers aren't comfortable buying things they can't see. So we changed the packaging to have some waves and some bubbles and a cellophane window. People could see what they were buying. And that helped keep the inventory intact. Like people aren't opening the box and then not putting the thing back in. So that was helpful to the stores. And the color codes, as you see, matched the color coding for the new category names. We also added there's an oval in the bottom left corner of each of those windows. It says contractor preferred. Pass and Seymour was a very reliable contractor preferred brand. And we did not want to alienate the contractors. We didn't want them to think that we had dumbed down our contractor grade products to sell in retail. We wanted them to feel comfortable that this is what they were used to. And they could see that by looking through the window. So that was helpful. But it also made the do-it-yourselfer comfortable that they were buying a valued brand in the marketplace. So next. So there's a snapshot of a bunch of premium and heavy duty products in the boxes. And so next we'll go on to the merchandising piece so that you see this football looking piece of plastic that sticks up above the card. So the cards would mount into a plastic rail or they would hang on a gate front and they would have typically a product mounted to it. And the products would be mounted either with zip ties or with screws from the back. But there's a thing with electrical that you can't really tell the difference between a single pole or a three-way or a four-way just by looking at the front, especially if you aren't familiar with shopping electrical. And so what we did was we created these blips. These were a soft plastic that was bendable so nobody would get hurt if your wrist happened to hit it as you went into behind the shelf to get the product. It would simply bend. You wouldn't cut yourself. Okay, so it was safe. and it would say three-way for when one switch controls, for when two switches control one light. So if you had a hallway and there's a switch on one end and you have a switch on the other end of the hallway, but they both control the same light that's in the middle of the hallway, you need a three-way switch. Now, you might not have known that, but we just educated you, right? So now people are feeling more comfortable shopping in the category. We had set this up in a prototype store aisle in our trade show booth at the International Hardware Show in Chicago, the first year we were rolling this out. And after we had set the store in our booth, we left for the day. We came back in the morning, and a number of these blips were gone right from our set. So our competitors were taking them off of our set, and what we had heard was they were sending them back to their offices saying, we need to do this. And so they were stealing our ideas right from under. So we had to hire security who sat in the booth at night when we weren't there. But anyways, because of that, we applied for patents. And my first 4 of 6 US patents are for these, what they call electrical device tags, or what we referred to dearly as just blips. And we had all sorts of blips. We had blips that had light bulbs, and depending on what the blip had to say, what the information was, we were changing the shape. When the stores started to set the merchandise in their aisles, our competitors' reps were going in and taking our blips from the store set and going to where they had product and using them. So then we had to put our logo on the front. We had to put copy on the back. So it was crazy. But anyway, so that's the blip. And that was kind of a new idea. There were small sets. Thanks for moving that forward. These would go in a small, like a True Value or True Serve, these kind of co-op stores, Ace Hardware, just a small store that had just a small set. And you can see that the products were mounted on those cards. The cards would slide into a rail and the product would be mounted behind it. Next. And so we were getting some attention after we had set in the hardware show, and a regional hardware store with 17 stores in upstate New York came to us and said, we'll give you 1 store and let you try it. And if it works, then we'll give you all 17 stores. So we bought all of our competitors' product out. They gave us 1 store. We set up a prototype store set, and you can, if you would move forward, Brian, down to the trade show display. We set that up in their store, and we told them we were pretty sure we'd get a 7% increase in sales because we were going to be able to move people from the residential, or what we were now calling residential or standard category, to premium, or what they would have known as commercial. And so they said we thought we'd get 7%. When they pulled compo sales from one year to the next, the same month from 1 year previous to the month we were completed a sales cycle, we had increased sales by 27%. And they said, you get all 17 of our stores. How soon can you do it? The next thing we know, they're calling us and they're saying, we've got like people in suits hanging out in our electrical aisle, and they're taking pictures of all of your merchandising. So we jump in a car, we drive, it was about an hour and a half away, and we drive there and we find out it's actually people from Lowe's, people from Menards, people from Home Depot. The word had gotten out in the industry that the sales were like skyrocketing in the electrical aisle, and everybody wanted to know how we did it. So we were, at that time, we were building a lot of plastic extrusion rails and cards. And some of the lower, more price-sensitive stores wanted to not have to mount product. So we created a paper version. You can see that on this slide here, which actually had the photo, so they didn't have to mount product anymore. And so that was for some other stores like Aces and True Values and Bob's Hardware and stuff. Let's go on. So just some examples. And then Home Depot came knocking and they said, what can you do for us? So we put together 48 feet worth of this system They didn't want to use plastic. It was kind of against their grain, no pun intended. So we had pine shelving that we put, but we used the cards on the pine shelving, mounted the product, and yeah, we also added in the Home Depot concept, we added a kiosk. So you could go and you could select, I'm a homeowner and I need to change out my switch, and it would say, oh, is it for your kitchen? Oh, okay. Well, how about this grade? How about a dimmer? Like we were kind of suggesting better products for them to get them comfortable. So we had presented that to Home Depot. If you go down to the next picture, that's actually a photograph of the set that we had set up for them. We had a kiosk in place, and our biggest competitor, Leviton, had heard that we were pitching them, and the president, Mr. Hal Leviton, actually flew to Atlanta to talk to the president of Home Depot and gave all sorts of price concessions and said you can't go to them, like, we're your brand. And Home Depot said, all right, but you have to do this merchandising system like they're doing. You have to change your category names, and you have to suggest, help people shop. So they did, and we got like the contractor product, like an 8 feet out of the 48 is all we won, but it was sizable for us. We were anyway. So our president was so mad. He's like, take it to Lowe's, sell it to Lowe's. So he was mad, and we had to adjust it for Lowe's. And so now we start to see some pictures of the Lowe's set. Now Lowe's has a different customer than Home Depot. Lowe's caters to women, a little bit more design oriented, more style oriented. So when we got into Lowe's, keep going if you would, we introduced this upgrade product. So this is like highly stylized product. So we were like scrambling to make and design better product at the same time where our volume had gone up. It was crazy. Knowing that they were catering to women and young families, we created a 4-foot safety set. So if you had a kid, you might want the tamper resistant outlet, which means that your kid's not going to be able to stick a key into that outlet.
Sorry. Lost the deck. 1 second, Cookie.
That's okay. I can keep talking while you're bringing it back.
Please.
Yeah. So Lowe's was interested in what we were showing them, and they loved the thinking, out of the box thinking. And again, they were hesitant to leave their primary provider, and they gave us the contractor. I think you're on the other slide, but that's the other deck, the first one. It's okay. I can talk to it. So Lowe's gave us 2 regions of stores, but only contractor products. So again, we just kept we'd go through all of this work. We'd get all excited. We had great ideas. We bring them forward. They looked great. We knew that they worked. And then they would be like, oh, you can have the contractor set, because our competitors were so eager to keep the business they had. It's just easier to keep business than get new business, that they were just throwing price. They were, they just kept decreasing their price. So it's hard to win when you're forced to compete like that. We had ideas that were premium ideas. They deserved the premium price. We knew it was going to increase their sales, and they weren't doing it for us. So at any rate, let's keep going. In 1 year, SmartStep increased the Pass and Seymour Legrand retail channel sales from 3 million to 43 million in 1 year. Our factory operations went from 1 shift to 3. This changed our warehousing and shipping processes entirely. Stores wanted the merchandise to appear at the same time the new product did, and that made sense. Originally we were sending merchandising from a different warehouse, and then the people that were setting the stores were trying to scramble to find all the boxes. It was just easier to send everything together, but our factory wasn't really equipped to be a merchandising warehouse, but they had to be. So that there was a lot of change going on. And we also knew that we needed to create sales materials to help sell the system. Like, we needed to teach the people working in the stores that this isn't just smoke and mirrors. Like, that's really a better product. Like, that's a more durable product, really. The on and off will go 10,000 times instead of 1,000 times, or whatever the case was. So after that, what happened was the customers started to say, well, I really like what you're doing, but I hate that color blue. I can't tell you how many times I heard, I hate that color blue. And I said, that's on purpose. We didn't want you to like it. That your buyers, your customers won't like it either. They won't buy it. That's the whole point. And oh no, my wife thinks green would be better. So now we had stores that they'd say like, oh, I'll give you all 7 of my stores out here in Omaha, but you have to change the colors. And then as soon as you had to start customizing the set for every store, we couldn't get the margin anymore because we were losing volume. If somebody wanted the green sticker, then they, or label, they wanted a green box. So, and then you have double the inventory because you have a green one and a red one, or whatever the case was. So it got harder. The pressure was really on. The regional store folded. Home Depot and Lowe's still maintained a contractor set. Menards and the co-ops like the Ace and the Do It Best and the True Values have been mainstay. They have mainstay customers of Pest and Seymour's. The SmartStep system still works. It was proven. We knew it. And after that, I was promoted. We had some internal pressure going on too. So Legrand over in France, corporate found out what we were doing, actually presented it to them. And they were like, no. Why are you doing anything with black boxes? And why are you doing anything with light blue? Like, our color is red. Everything needs to be red. And I said, that's not how people shop. Like, what made this work was this category, this system. And they said, no, but you don't understand. The brand will never mean anything to anybody if we don't enforce the brand. Like, you have to make everything red, and Legrand, the brand name needs to be on top. And we said, we know that that's not a search criteria when people make decisions. They didn't care. So I could see what was happening. Like, I couldn't fight it really anymore. I tried, but I got promoted to a larger role in the company. And then in my new role, we brought improved products. So what was happening was other distribution channels were saying, we want better merchandising, we want better packaging. So we were able to adapt for channels, and that was great. It helped sales there. I was no longer responsible for maintaining or managing the retail system. And with customer pressure and the loss of legacy knowledge, major changes were happening that were not helping us at all. I left the company 6 years later. So Bryan, if you're going to share a deck, I would just ask that you share the other one. It's got my contact information on it, and I welcome anybody that's interested. And, I know I went over and I apologize, but if you'd like to connect with me, please, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is there and on my screen, and I'm happy to connect with you. And I wish you the best, and thank you for your time this evening.
Cookie, amazing. I think it's an important lesson for all of us as we think about curiosity. The thing that I was really tuned into was the fact that you took the time to watch people shop and made that the foundation. And I think what these students are going through now is the process of learning to ask the questions of the customer. And the very thing they're learning about in this module is how to conduct focus groups and how to speak to customers and not just rely on surveys where your questions might skew the results you get, and your own biases can skew. So, students, as you think about this, Cookie took a product that was selling 3 million and it took it to 43 million because they just took the time to watch people shop. And then like all these things came out of that. Right.
Yeah.
So again, the most important thing you all can do that I started this call is connect with us on LinkedIn, because the most important part of your career will be the people you meet and the way you evolve in these relationships you make. Like Cookie and I met 10 years ago, and I called her and said, help me with this presentation. And here she is. And if she asked me to do the same, I'd be happy to do it, because the most important thing all of us are doing on this great journey of life, whether it's professionally or in college or in any other aspect, it's making, building, and maintaining meaningful relationships. So I leave you with that. Have a great week, students. Thank you, Cookie. And off we go.
Thanks, everyone. So
Take care.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.